This is Simon with toughtrader.com. Before we get started, past performance is not indicative of future results. Let me get this up. Actually, now that I have it, I got to just kind of flash it up there. Desktop, legal. There we go. And, well, you think this would be faster, but it's not. There we are. So, past performance is not indicative of future results. This is for educational purposes only. Most importantly, you can lose a ton of money trading futures very easily if you do not have an edge and you're not executing that edge with a high degree of discipline. It's super easy to draw down. So please make sure you have a formula that is presenting regular opportunities for you to make profit. Number two, you have a risk management plan in place that you are comfortable with. And number three, you are journaling your good trades and your bad trades so that you can figure out where your rhythms are and where you're making money and where you're losing money. It's impossible to coach somebody if they do not know where they are making their mistakes, what's working for them, and what's not working for them. Okay, so yesterday we had trend day down, which of course leads to a rally. That's how that works, right? Somehow, shockingly, the market was caught off guard with the tax bill passing. So we've of course have rallied overnight. I will note this is the weakest of the three rallies I think that we've had so far, and we are gapping. So look where we are with relative to prior day's range. We'll get Globex high and low in here really quick. So ES is trading at 26.93.50 is Globex high. That's just behind the white zone. I think the white zone held for most of the night. And I think the low down there was Micron Technologies beat. But I think mostly it was the tax bill passing. They had to vote one more time for it. There was some kind of technical error, but it's pretty much a done deal. Of course, it's been a done deal. Wow, hold on one second here. Remove 84.25 was the Globex low. We are above on ES and NQ, yesterday's value area high. I have no idea how they're going to treat this because the gap is back to the top of the range, but we're inside the range and inside Tuesday's high, right? So I want to see what the advanced decliners look like out of the gate on ES. And I will go take a look at where I wanted, where I would have had a position for a short yesterday, and see if that carries over this morning. But my plan is to wait and see how they treat the open. I get a sneaky suspicion they're going to sell it, but that's only like a fantasy. Like I don't actually have any empirical evidence that they will sell it. That's really important, right? The reason why that's important is because you have to make a distinction between what you want. So in my mind, I see it like, hey, this is the third time we've gapped or fourth time we've gapped on the tax bill, the same bill, right? But that does not mean that the rest of the market cannot come in and just decide that we're going to drive it up, right? This is really important distinction for guys that I coach, right? They'll come in with a preconceived notion. We should go down. So the preconceived notion, we should go down or we should go up, whatever your notion is fine. But now you got to replace it back to the philosophy. I only want to do what the market wants to do, right? So that means, A, I take that feeling, I write it down, right, in my journal, and then I set it aside and go, what's the evidence or what's the location within my process that would fulfill that setup, right? So if the market opens up and I don't get my process to kick in, right, where I get an entry, exit, stop that have a very specific process for entering that trade, then I get no trade, right? That means that the market drops straight out of bed. I don't get a I told you so or I knew it, because whenever I have a feeling relative to what the market's going to do without any evidence, I'm basically just calling a shot out of the dark, right? It's my process that makes me money, not my ability to look at the market and magically define which way it's going to go. Okay. All I know is a range that usually calls for initial thought would be balance, right? I need to see it above Tuesday's high if we're going to trend up. So those are my two markers out of the gate. And I need to see it below Tuesday's low. But more importantly than that, let me get over to my other screen, which I already have up and running on ES. There we go. Drag this over. Okay, so we look at the TPO on ES. Let's go find that. I believe I have it hidden right here. There we go. So if you look from yesterday, right, let's go through this process again so that everyone understands what's going on, okay? If we look, we opened yesterday, right? We opened above, actually, we opened above value, right? This is the A letter where we opened. Here was the volume point of control and the TPO points of control. Why is this hanging up? There we go. One, volume point of control, TPO point of control. You can see in that first half hour, I really want to drag this over, but it won't let me. Okay, we open drove lower and closed below value. So realize this was the bottom of value right here, right? So what's my first requirement? So I would have expected, normally I said, hey, we're opening up above volume point of control and TPO point of control. So we immediately saw that there were sellers. Why did we see that? Combine the two pieces, right? We came in, these were our internals. You'll notice within the first 5 minutes, my guideline for that internal, excuse me, wrong one, is that we get above 1500 on the advancers, right? On the NYSE advancers. If we don't, I don't necessarily expect an open drive lower, but I certainly expect that pushes up will be met with the responsive sellers. And I know that I don't have to be in an incredibly big rush to get long. That really helped, because what that ended up being, this area ended up being a white zone, which would normally hold, and we drove through that. Win number one, right? If you didn't get long, you didn't get stopped at the white zone, that's 2 to 4 points you didn't donate back to the market. Number one, big deal, okay? Number two, once we got below, right? So this is our neighborhood. These were our friends, right? Our friends didn't help us, right? We got underneath them. See how we backside tested the neighborhood? I call this the neighborhood for those who aren't familiar. It's value area high and low, right? That means my next area of help is going to come at the earliest, starting right here, right? So I'm going to put an area right up there. That does not mean we will bounce, but notice that is the neighborhood where I am looking to get help from my friends. And you will notice that we came and ground all the way down. Notice this area is unauctioned, right? So notice how over here, right? Notice how over here, how the market chose to auction this. Guys, I go through this all the time. Down to the mid, right? If you look, we'll take a 50, 60 back, because this is important. Dun, dun. Mid, I'm going to cover this as quick as I can. We get to the mid, we find responsive buyers. We attempt to push back up, back through the unauctioned area. We can't quite make it. We almost finish off the auction. We just missed the open gap here to the left. Why? What happens? Oh, trade station window still on top. Thank you. Sorry, guys. I apologize. Let me go through this one more time. Okay. We get below value area low. Okay. This is the next value area high. This entire area from here to here is unauctioned. That means you have no volume and no one to help you defend this area. What does the market want to do? It wants to fill volume in and time in here to fix the chart, right? If you look, we came down to the mid. I cover this all the time. We go through the mid, top, bottom, come to the mid, a modified half gap, right? Mid of the unauctioned area, right here, right? So the market's re-auctioned this part. We come to the mid. We look for responsive buyers. We get them. They fail to get above. We complete down. Everyone is targeting the open gap. We just missed the open gap because we're in a bull market, so everyone misses it. This fact changes, right? So realize when we're in ultra bull mode, they front run the open gap, and when we switch gears and the selling pressure actually gets heavier, we will overshoot the open gap, and we will hit, right? We will hit the next NVPOC, which was down here. We didn't do that. Okay, so switch gears now. Does everyone understand? All we did was fill in the unauctioned area. Market did its job. Everything's A-okay, right? So for this morning, we reset our gears. We understood that we had to get underneath value area, and we had to get past this to be bearish, which I covered, right? We didn't do it. We found responsive buyers overnight. So if we erase all this, right, 8:14, let me try to keep on pace here. Okay, so for today, your major markers, you have health markers for the market, right? We have to get below 26.91 and a quarter to get into this value area. Within this value area, I do not expect us to slip straight through. However, there's some issues. The volume point of control and the TPO point of control are spread out by about 2.5 points. Normally, they're right on top of each other, right? What you will find when these 2 points get spread out, that this spreads where you're getting support. You have some volume profile traders, you have some TPO traders, and so all this does is makes this a little bit harder to figure out where you're likely to find an attempt at a response back up. I know that unless I get below here and hold below, right? So there's 3 health markers: value area high, volume point of control, TPO point of control, value area low. I am not bearish unless I get below and consolidate underneath this area. That's my marker for running down, right? So I might get an open drive lower. They might fail it right out of the gate, but that has to be gotten below in order to move below. I would consider this open gap now weak. We almost tested it, right? We came to value area high, and we are most likely, from an odds perspective, to test the volume point of control and the TPO point of control, where I expect an attempted response up. Why is that? We're trading 2693, right? 2693 brings up 2683. That's the open gap. That's a little too easy, right? 10 down. This brings us 15 down, and then from 2693, 20 down will put us at 73, which is right here, right? And when I look at 73, now this gets tricky. There's not much that needs to be repaired at 73. What needs to be repaired down here is this one little area right in here, this big anomaly from 69 and a quarter to 66.50. This is where, if I was going to expect a response, this is where I expect a response. Why? It's 20 to 25 points down. It's a good stretch. I would look for tick divergence, and I'd look to get above my last seller, which I'll cover in just a minute. So that gives me a lay of the land. On the upside, I'm not too eager to short. The volume point of control has already been taken out. We already know from our past history with moves down and moves up, when there's no volume point of control, that's the area where I believe the strongest institutional traders are going to come back in and step in against this. They do carry over, but it's more difficult to count on that carryover to cause rejection, right? So what I would expect is that they're going to defend. Yesterday's traders who got too short are going to have to defend on the way back down. If they don't defend and we slip right through, that'll be very telling, and I'll expect to test down. Otherwise, I expect to test up and continuation higher. What else is there to expect? We're in a bull market, right? So we'll know from the internals as soon as the market opens. We'll have a good idea of which way they're going to take it, and then we'll let price action determine, right? So next, let's go do NQ really quick. Sorry for going so fast. I want to get done with this before I get to the open. So let's go do NQ very quickly. Okay, Globex high on NQ, which is already rolling down a bit. We were up 30, if I recall. 65.29, just below the white zone. Globex high, 29, right about there. I know I can have this computer just do this, so I guess I will in the future. Stop. Globex high, Globex low, 6,500 even? 65.02. There we go. That made perfect sense, actually. Okay, there's Globex low, and this is a white zone. I'll mark this off so we can see it easily. White zone, fill color white. There we go. Okay, so if we look at where value area high is and value area low, I marked it off on the chart, right? We are currently trading at 65.24, right? If we do not get below value area low and value area high, I'm going to assume an attempt to fill this gap, right? Now, if that fails and we open drive lower and we get through the gap and we get below value area low, my picture changes on this, right? But I'm going to have to assume, let me get this open over here, right? Here, NQ. Okay, so yesterday, noticed, again, I'm going to keep going over this till everyone in the room gets it so that we're on the same rhythm. Yesterday, there's value area low. We opened up, we pressed inside. Notice we opened below. Here, I'll make it easier. We opened up, pressed inside, never got to the volume point of control or the TPO point of control. Those are still open in that case, right? 65.35 to 65.40. Hey, Ira, good morning. Let me move this, get rid of this. And if you roll down to 64.81 to 64.79, right? So notice where, look what NQ did. We could not get in, we could not hold inside the value area, consolidate underneath, came to value area high, right? Came to value area high, and then rolled. Notice it shot the volume pro. Anyone who's trying to trade the gap got smoked, right? From a day trading perspective, unless you had a nice fat stop on there. We came into the VPOC and the TPO point of control. I should have been long there, just naked. I wasn't. I was short. I was long 86. I kind of got smoked here, actually. I didn't get smoked, but I had a trade setup here that stopped me. I took the second setup here, but I didn't hold it as well as I could have. So at any rate, just things to keep in mind for today. It really throws you off when your first trade's a loser. And the plan was yesterday was to short 65.34. If you recall, was the plan was to short into this push against 65.40, and we just didn't push high enough. I think I missed it by 2 points. That would have been a fantastic short. Obviously, that had a potential short of 50 points actually. So it would have been nice to get filled. It didn't happen, and I ended up with a neutral day. I had one loser and one winner, 8 down and 8 up approximately. So that's my 2 cents for today. I have to get under. So looking at today, right, following the same concept, right? Markets repeat again and again. So I know when I'm trying to gauge, if we never trade into that value area, 65.08, we hold above 65.08. We never trade into it. I'm going to look for a push out, and my first area I'm looking to test is this area right in here, right? If we get to 65.34, 65.40, I would think we would see rejection. Again, the danger there in the first 30 minutes is shorting an open drive higher, open drive lower. Okay, so the only thing that's changed here on NQ, we get beyond this area, this has already been tested, okay? You cannot rely on them as strongly coming back in, and the problem here is all of this profile on both this whole profile all the way down to here, right, is damaged and needs to be repaired all the way to 64.34.75. And don't make the mistake of thinking we get to 34.75 and the market goes all done, we can shoot it. It's not uncommon to overshoot it, right? So if we look from where we're trading, 65.21, right, and we take away 100 points, that would put us at 64.21, right, which would put us right down here. I'm not saying we're going down 100 points, but we were doing it just a week ago, right? So you have to look in this area and go, well, what's here? Well, there's only one thing that stands out to me down here, and that is the volume point of control. Wrong. Oh, and then the old all-time high is 64.47.75 and its potential trap back in. Ron's correct about that. Thank you, Ron. And then if you look, there's an NVPOC. It wasn't overly impressive, but it's there at 64.12. So I imagine between here and 64.03, if we melt, that'll be a responsive area. I have it in my notes. I don't particularly expect to get down there because that would mean that I'm pretty bearish, and I don't think I'm going to be bearish. Oh, is it still on top? I don't know why this is not updating. Oh, it's updating. Okay, got it. I see that's an old message. So my plan on NQ, same thing. I'm going to look. I will probably, if we hit in the first 30 minutes, attempt to fade that same 65.34 area to 65.40 first time in on reduced trade size. That's my trade plan. You don't have to trade it. I'm totally comfortable taking a stop in there first time through, which reminds me I did not pull up my, give me just a second. I did not pull up one of my trading domes, but I will right now. Okay, hold on one second here. And so I don't share my password with the world, I'll lower this for a second. First time into this 34 area, right? I'm probably going to take a shot, unless we just straight up just explode into that area. I'm probably going to take a shot when we get in there the first time. And I'm willing to take, hold on one second here. There we go. Get my password up. Okay, in business. So, right, I'm planning to take a shot here, and guess what my shot is? Back to value area high if we fail out of this open gap. I'll try to leave a trailer back in. This is Globex high. Also remember the traps and the old highs in this area. All of these areas are, all of this is value, is going to be very interesting on the retest, right? The thing we don't know, and we won't know until 3 minutes from now, is if when we open up, where we're going to push against. So I want to do something real quick and give you my areas where I expect responsive sellers real quick out of the gate. Let me look on NQ and ES and responsive buyers. So from the overnight session, I have, okay, from the overnight session, my best seller, I would expect an attempted response push back up from 65.18 down to 65.12. Okay, that would be testing against the best seller. I would not want it below 65.12, by the way, on that push down. So I'd expect to push in and a response right back up. That also pushes it into the consolidation before the last break. It's logical. That was from the strongest seller overnight, which occurred just before London Open, actually. Right. So London did not trade. Be aware, London did not trade below 65.12. So you've broken London low. Here, I'll share that. I'll show it in a second. And then on my last best buyer, right, which is the first hurdle we'll have to get above, is 65.26. That's pretty easy because you're just putting a stop against 65.28.75 against the Globex high. Again, I'm just pointing these out for early entries for guys who are very aggressive. If you don't know how to use these, just leave them alone. The open is tough to trade. On ES. Wow, there's almost no rotation. It's 26.93. I don't have a long there. I'm not going to take a long right out of the gate. And we are, I don't have anything on ES. I'm just going to have to wait till it opens up one way or the other and see what it looks like. Anyways, I'm going to take a small break here right before the open and refill my coffee. 2 minutes to the open, and I'll be right back to continue my thoughts and see what the opening looks like. I only have setups for NQ. I don't have them for ES. And for right out of the gate. And the white zones are obviously my highest odds locations. Either way, let me insert symbol, tick, and let me make this a little smaller and move this over and make these a little bit bigger. Okay, I'll be right back. We'll see what we do off the open. There's no rush to trade. We should have a couple of opportunities today. I'll be back. Well, definitely not open drive lower. Advances are at 1659. Be aware of that. Excuse me, 1675. So it's not bad for open for a gap, but again, that's not open drive higher material right there. So we'll see if they find responsive buyers out of the gate. Again, that 6512 is the big area there. And tick is pretty solid at 596, but again, not open drive higher territory. It'll be very interesting to see if we get responsive sellers on this. Correct. If we don't hit 6508 within the first 30 minutes and close in, you are correct, Daniel. Again, this is a little bit different circumstance, so we'll just see how they treat it. The 24-hour VWAP's down at 6505. Thank you. New RTH low of the day. I've done nothing yet. I'm just watching. Yes, new low of the day into the white zone. I'm not taking it here in the white zone. I'm just waiting to see how this rotates out to start the day. We're into the 24-hour VWAP here. I don't use Sierra advancers. I'm using TradeStation advancers. I haven't figured out the whole Sierra chart thing yet. Again, we're below that 6512, 6518 area. That should now become your resistance area. And I didn't have a location on ES. I'm holding on ES until I see how this. I don't want to get caught in an open drive lower. So look, we have a little bit different open. We have advancers at 1700, right? We have tick positive and we're being met with responsive sellers. That's a different pattern than what we're getting on most days, right? So I'm just on hold for a moment until I figure out. I know I've got to get above, right? What keeps us safe? Get above your last best seller. Even if I miss the U-turn, let's say we come in and just fire right out of here, I'm all right with that. Why? Because it saves me from just getting annihilated on these trend days down or where we get range expansion, right? So I'm just on hold temporarily till I get this worked out. I would have loved a, it looks like we did not get 65.26 and a quarter to 65.28, which is where I wanted to scalp to the downside. I did want the 65.18 and 65.12 for as a scalp to the long side. I don't think that worked out. I didn't take either one. Those are my early. So for guys who see me scalping early in the day, right? The risk is I get snapped in an open drive higher or open drive lower. There's nothing for me to do here right now but to wait. Even in the white zone, I'm on hold. I don't want to get clipped if they sell, we have a sell the news reaction. So far, this is behaving correctly, right? Because if you look at how we behaved overnight, we came in opening near the highs, and we're shaking out the weak hands. We're shaking out the weak hands from the long side, right? So this makes sense, right? So it depends on how uber aggressive you want to get on getting into the long, right? I'm with the idea that this is a different open. Normally when I see internals this strong, I expect a push out from here. We're just now filling the gap on NQ. NQ is leading us to the downside, and this is not the strong opening I was looking for. So I will wait until I can get above my last best seller and start that whole process over again. Right now I've got nothing on this. I'm just totally on hold. NQ's leading us lower, by the way. So remember, yesterday we had trend day down. They pushed it up overnight. Those are weak hands, right? Because why are they weak hands? Because they're not trading against the index, right? So there's a constant arbitrage between the NASDAQ 100, the S&P 500, and the actual index. So if there's actual sellers in the underlying, that's why the index is going down. You got to remember that still exists. That's not somehow magically disappeared. So now I have a very good barrier. I've got to get above my last seller, right, in order to be long. So I actually now need this to push down so I can get a better seller lower. If that makes sense to everybody? Hopefully it does. And they are just eviscerating NQ. So heads up and caution on that, guys. That is a roll down right out of the gate of 30 points almost. 65.23 to 64.93. 30-point rotation straight out of the gate, $600 a contract. 24-point candle on NQ. Absolutely. So what does that tell you, right? Immediately, I covered this up in our coaching session with Alex yesterday, right? So look at yesterday's candles, right? Look at today's candles. This is a heads up, right? Range expansion. This is where if someone keeps buying just based on rotation down period, and they don't take into account that we've actually had an expansion in range in one 5-minute bar, this is a clue. Doesn't mean that we roll down all day, but if you're looking for clues where you get where traders get eviscerated from buying down, this is a big clue. This puts me on hold, right? I don't want to bottom fish an expansion in range, right? If this bar came after 30 or 40 points down, I'd be like, hey, we're starting to panic. But this is starting the panic, not ending the panic, right? So caution is what I would suggest on the longs. I wish I was short. I'm not, but I am not getting long. I'm pretty much completely on hold at this point until the first half hour is over. Okay, that's over a 30-point rotation in a 15-minute bar, far wider than anything we had yesterday. Okay, so mark in your journals. I'm talking to my coaching clients, right? Mark in your journal, range expansion, first 15 minutes of the day, right? That usually means, when do we get reversals? Usually 10:30 to 11:30 in the morning Central Time, close to between London close and New York lunch, right? And what does that look like? Well, we want to get above our last seller, right? We want to see perhaps a 50-60 retrace or a test back into our last seller from the profile bar, right? And the one thing we want to do, we're already too late to catch a short, right? You'd have to know right out of the gate that, hey, this is short. I'm taking it short. That's what you would have had to do. We're not in that position to do that, right? And notice we're trying to hold it off of Tuesday's low. Now go off of what your emotions telling you inside. Oh my gosh, I'm going to catch the reversal. Ian, the news is that they pretty much passed that legislation, but I think it's a sell the news response. Yeah, the short to take was during Globex. I'd agree with you, Daniel, and I don't take it before the open, so no big deal there, right? But the whole point of it is, yeah, it's very aggressive selling. I'd agree with you, and so all I'm saying in this situation is, range is expanded. You know that we have sellers present. You can let the market settle usually on occasions like this and still get paid, right? I know that most day traders think, oh my gosh, I should have been short. We're at the top of the market. I don't really feel like I should be short here, right? And what am I cautious for? First of all, on true trend day down, I have my weakest performances because I'm a counter trader, right? right? So I want to establish that we're not in trend day down. What are my marks for that? I'm going to go through them. First of all, I've got to get back above, or at least back to the 50-60 retrace, right? If I can't get back to the 50-60 retrace, one indication that I'm in a trend day down, right? Let me see here, Ron. That's true. And then anecdotally, as Ron points out, he goes, you can miss the first 10-point bounce in NQ. It's great to have a strong team in here, you know that, because there'll be another test of the low or a new low. Let's see, Ian. I think the news was just that we passed that things passed. Let me see this real quick. Apparently, the bonds got smacked. Peter, I'm going to assume you'll fill me in on that. I'm going to send something to you in a minute, Peter, from another friend of mine who's an old bond trader from Solomon. Really old. Remind me to send that to you. You sent me an article that you'll find really interesting, right? There's been a huge divergence between junk bonds and the stock market, by the way. So, right, this is a huge opening rotation, 50 points, right? For me, that tells me I don't feel bad that I took the that I don't have the trade. It also lets me know that I don't feel bad that, hey, I just didn't get white for 50 points, right? My plan was, if I was going to be aggressive, was to take a 65-18, 65-12 scalp. And I said specifically, I didn't want to close behind 65-12. Well, obviously, this is a perfect situation where you just have to manually be able to close that thing out, or you got eviscerated in that 5-minute bar. This is the danger of trading in the first 5 minutes. So this could end up being trend day down, guys. So just heads up on that. That's certainly a big downside open and an expansion of range. I'm pretty impressive move lower, if you ask me. And so I'm happy just to have my capital intact on these situations. Remember, even if we start trending down, we usually break that one timing down over New York lunch and then resume after New York lunch if it's going to be a true trend day down. But at this point, I'm not overly worried about that. And do not chase into the hole. Let them come back for us, right? Very, very important. Let them come back for us. Yeah, and a true V is very rare. I think Ron has a great point. As a trader, you got to keep reinforcing for yourself, right? Keep reinforcing for yourself. What are the stories you tell yourself to scare yourself into having to grab a trade? And what are the stories you tell yourself because, oh my gosh, I'm going to miss, I'm going to miss everything and it's all over for me and so on and so forth. That's, for me, is always very, very interesting. Stories that traders tell themselves to scare themselves in or out of a position. I won't see the turn. I won't get the opportunity. It's going to go to a new high without me. I don't want to be involved in a market that goes straight down like this and eviscerates traders, right? One misstep here kills me, right? I'm going to let the market set up for me, get above my last seller, backside test. I'm probably waiting now till 9:30 or 10:30 to see where my trading opportunity comes. I didn't do. Hans broke the channel. I think we go to the bottom of the range before bouncing. I'll watch for potential long entry on TLT at 123.75, but think we're at least put in a better low near 122.50. Just your thoughts. Well, your thoughts are pretty valuable, Peter. You're pretty good at the bonds, I'd say. So let me get this up. Yep, I see that. Yeah, the whole area is thin all the way down to 64.30. I would agree. I need a bounce to get some kind of shorter. Otherwise, I'm just going to be a passenger on this thing all the way down. I'm just not in a rush to grab this. It's a long, long way down, just like we covered in the pre-market. 64.30 is a good distance lower. So that does not mean short the low. It just means I'm grateful I didn't get caught in that at all. That's 50 points, $1,000 a contract on NQ. For me, I can stand missing that. So we still have VWAP sitting around 6,500 from the 24-hour, 2689-ish on ES. Nowhere close to that. And I'm just on caution mode here, guys. This is very slippery. I do wish I was short, obviously, but it didn't give me the opportunity. So remember, even on nasty down days, NQ tends to get 10 and 20 point rotations. Right? I can't tell you how many traders I see who short in the hole, get stopped out only to watch their trade go to their targets. RTH VWAP is sitting at 64.97. And I'll adjust the mid. I don't think anyone got run over this morning. Again, we avoided another white zone difficulty. Sorry about that. We avoided another white zone stop there. That's 2 days in a row. Again, when it gets hard like this, right, the zones bust more easily. If you took the white zone first dip in, by the way, on Russell, you got paid again. I don't know if anyone took that. New lows on NQ, no new lows on ES yet. Also watch for a change in pace where we get new lows on ES and no new lows on NQ. Tuesday low, potential trap location, not for me. We're below value area low from yesterday. That does open us up. Don't be confused. That does open us up to come down and test at least 61 to 47 and then 40 to 35. It's my next area. And then I have 11 to 40. And I think I listed some areas pre-market in addition to that, right? So my most important thing is, for those who are new, and by the way, at 9 a.m. I'll be closing up the live market preview. How big is seller? Where do you see him, Ron? Oh, wow. 801 contracts, seller, 6480. I don't know if y'all see that. That is huge size in your dome. If you look in your dome right now, you will see at 6480, there's an 818 contract seller. I can't tell you how massive size that is. I mean, massive. And he's offering in right now. Somebody wants out. And he lifted. Or he got filled. One of the two. There was a big, big seller there. That had to show up on Bookmap, right, Ian? No, that's good. They took him. There's no question about it. There was a giant seller there. There was a giant seller there. At 9 o'clock, I'll be cutting off the YouTube broadcast. By the way, if you're watching the YouTube broadcast and this is really, you're finding it helpful, if you'd please hit the like button. Really helps me out with customer service with YouTube. I'd really appreciate it. And if you'd like to join us in the room, obviously most of our trades set up later in the morning. Just email me at tradeandperform, TRADENPERFORM @gmail.com. And I'm happy to extend you a visit pass for 5 days. I got nothing to do here, guys. There's nothing but sellers. I don't have location. Discipline calls for me to wait. And like Ron said, even if we get a low, we're likely to retest that low in this environment. We did our job, right? No one lost any money getting ripped on the rip down. It'd have been nice to get the test up for the short. And like I said, I just remember my initial instinct this morning. So this fits into the picture, right? I think we're going to sell it. but that was in fantasy land in my mind, somewhere in there. Now I needed evidence and position to get it. I didn't get that, right? But I also, because I switched off of an emotion, I think we're going to sell back to process, it still kept me safe. And I can't tell you how incredibly important that is for me. That's true. Ron's also pointing out that we tend to push the edges at the top and the bottom of the hour, right? So you'll see when we get to 9:30, we'll tend to retest. That's why the break of IB high and IB low is so common, because they do get retested, right? So you've got time. You can spread yourself out. As we're hitting new lows here in NQ, you can spread yourself out. And what are we looking for too? Is there any evidence of counter rotation or rotation within the market, right? And there's not, right? We don't even have one green 5-minute bar. 5 minutes, much less 15 minutes, right? As a matter of fact, one of the things I need to do is reset everything. Open. New lows, NQ, open drive lower, trend day down, potential on tap. That's a, wow, 10-point drop right there. That is really awesome. I wish I was short. I'm really glad I'm not long. Moving a second set of charts, the 15-minute charts. I'm seeing no divergences. Tick is not all that negative, by the way, but doesn't seem to matter right here. So I'm just in a hands-off mode. I'm pretty sure we'll get some good setups later this morning. Not just pretty sure, very sure. Thank you. Ian's pointing out that there's a zipper, for those of you who know what that is, at 83 on ES. Again, I'm going to wait till I can get above my last seller, my last best seller. And at this point, my last best seller on NQ, hold on 1 second. I'll tell you where that is. Something's wrong with that chart. Wow. He's way back there. Even since the open, my best seller's all the way up here, right? So I need to have that whole process reset. VWAP's now below 6,500. Again, I'm not all that much into trying to find, just scavenge the bottom on a straight down market. It can be very, very frustrating and very, very costly. I'm going to let this percolate through the first hour. There's no question in my mind. I'd rather miss the V than get run over on the straight down, right? So clear change in sentiment, clear expansion in range. I can wait. I'm sure there's multiple people at this point that thought 6520, 6500, 6480, and 6470 were all great reversal points. Same thing on ES, right? I'm sure there's plenty of people who thought from 96 to 86 was perfect, or from 96 to 90 was perfect. $44 Nasdaq 100 stocks are advancing. Can you send me the symbol on that, Ron? Is that Sierra, or is that TradeStation? Sierra. Do you have a symbol for that? Or is that a package I need to buy? ADV NQ. Okay, I'm putting up a new chart. ADV-NQ. Oh, didn't mean to do that. Short book. Okay. Let's do this. It's ADV minus NQ. That's advancers decliners on Sierra charts, guys. Thank Ron for that. Ralph has a good comment, by the way. He's saying he's assuming trend day down. We'll consider 88, 89 short if we get there for his location. Again, that assumes on his part trend day down. We still haven't closed above the last 5-minute bar on NQ. So I'm just simply not in a rush to find a short or a long. I'm just going to let the market come to me. I have no doubt that that will occur and that I will get paid. Let's see, Peter, we already went over the bond stuff. And so did everyone get that ADV minus NQ? If you approach the markets calmly and with focus, right, every time, the market comes to you and you don't get, you'll still get run over on occasion, right? Everyone gets run over. But it certainly helps, right? It certainly helps when you keep a calm mind and let the market do what it needs to do, right? Everyone who's in here trying to figure out, it tends to not go in a straight line down. It tends to not go in a straight line up. There's 50, 60 retraces. Those are the natural course of the market, right? So, and again, I want to guide people, my coaching clients and everyone in the room in particular, right? Go back to what your process is, right? You only want to do what the market wants to do. Let's say that again. You only want to do what the market wants to do, right? And you want to follow process more than anything else you could possibly want to do. You want to follow your process. What the market does means nothing. Thank you. Bill's pointing out that 12.1 and 12.4, if you need a reference date, are the last dates NQ had big bars down for possible models. So we're looking at 12.1 and 12.4. Ian, thank you for the 83 zipper, by the way, on ES. That was very, obviously, that he pointed that out right at the low. I don't know if you grabbed that long. You didn't, but you saw it, right? You saw how that setup works. It's a cool setup, right? Off of Bookmap. If you can handle watching it and you can distinguish when they're legit and when they're just chart paint, right? They're good. Alex, did you get my answer? Did that come across for you, buddy? Where's the 800 block? There's a 675 block sitting at 6480, by the way. There's a big seller on NQ at 6480, guys. Somebody wants out of this thing. Don't think they can't eat through those either. They can. But not this time. He stood his ground at that 64.80. See if he shows back up. He's still there at 64.80, 590. Trying to get back above Tuesday's low as well. Notice how much it's slowed down too. Notice the lack of counter rotations. Okay, guys, on YouTube, thank y'all for joining me this morning. Again, anyone who would like a pass into the room, we do this pretty much every morning. I'm going to shift my focus to taking care of members in the room. If you'd like a pass in there, again, Trade and Perform, TRADEN, perform at gmail.com. If you like what you saw, you can join us every morning at 8 a.m., roughly, Central Time. And again, my number one encouragement to you, protect your capital, right? There's always a great trade. Know what environment you make your money in, know what environment you lose your money in, and what your trade setup, which matches your personality, the pace at which you trade, and what you're comfortable with making and losing. It's all about risk and your odds, right? But have a written plan, risk plan for what the max you're willing to lose and the max you're willing to gain on any given day and on any given trade, so you don't blow yourself out. By the way, the 64.80 guy, he's still sitting there with 600 contracts on NQ. You can see him in your dome if you'll look. You'll see 579, 584. Someone is just standing on NQ trying to get a rotation down. So very interesting, to say the least. Anyways, thank you all for joining, guys, and I'll be back tomorrow. If you'll hit the like button, really helps me out with the customer service from YouTube. Thank you.